Hey everyone, this week we are into Unit 4, Module 3, and we are finishing up with concentration by looking at a concept called dilution. And then we are going to revisit some acid-base chemistry that you would have done in grade 10, but we're going to build on that learning a little bit. So with dilution, I take you through a simulation that I'd like you to watch. You're going to want to watch that so that you are successful in an upcoming quiz about solubility about midway through this module. So with dilution, what we're talking about is when we have a certain solution and we add water, how does the concentration change? And we can calculate that concentration by employing a new formula, C1V1 equals C2V2. C standing for concentration, and 1 or I standing for initial and final. We can also use M to represent concentration because we know that molarity and concentration mean the same thing. Make sure that you watch the examples that are embedded, copy those out for your reference. Okay. Then I take you through how to make a stock solution. I know that this is an e-learning course and you won't be handling any equipment, but you still need to know the process and how to do that. Take you through a few more examples, and then there is a worksheet. I'd like you to try a few of them. You don't need to do all of them, but there's 8 questions. Check your answers to see if you need any help in sorting out how to do those dilution calculations. You want to reach out well in advance of a final evaluation because only one submission will be accepted. So make sure that you clarify any problems while you were doing these practice worksheets. Then at the end of the dilution, you need to complete a quiz. Now, this quiz is going to be out of 20. I believe I put 15 there, which is not correct, but it's out of 20. And you need to know information from Module 1, Module 2, and about dilution. Then we get into acid-base chemistry, which you know a little bit about. We talk about the properties, some examples. You need to know strength, concentrated versus weak, and dilute versus strong. Like, what do those terms mean? Make sure that, again, you are watching all embedded videos to give you that visual, and make sure you're listening to all the audio. Copying down any information that's needed. What's going to happen at the end of the module, there is a big assignment in lieu of a unit test where you need to know all of these concepts. So what I suggest you do whenever you come across any examples or definitions, especially the part that is in red, make sure that you copy those down, copy out a few properties of acids. Do the same thing with bases. Make sure you know what dissociation means, copy out a couple of examples. So really good note taking is important for this next part. Okay, and then we get into pH, and you need to know how to calculate pH. So as I take you through some of these examples, make sure you have your calculator in front of you and you are trying them as I do them so that you know how to use the buttons. There's a new button on the calculator called the log button, so we want to make sure that we know how to use those appropriately. Couple of cool demos coming up with regards to neutralization. And then we get into a very important technique called titration. I take you through how to perform a titration. You will be doing some titration calculations. And then there is a worksheet that I'd like you to submit so that I can assess your understanding. And then we have a simulation that we are going to be using, the Explore Learning simulation website. Okay, and then there is your acid-base assignment. This is the last module for Unit 4. We have 1 or 2 modules for Unit 5, and then we are done. I will indicate to you next week a little bit more about how we are going to break down the final 30 and what that will look like if you so choose to do that. Remember that the final 30 this year can only serve to improve your mark. It does not go against your final grade if you do badly on it. So again, something to think about. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week.